How far should parents go when it comes to controlling their children's dating life? And when does the desire to protect turn into a family conflict? Today, I'll share the story of a family that faced this question and see what you think about who's in the right. It all started subtly, with small comments that, at the time, seemed innocent. I had started dating a few months earlier, and things were going well. My girlfriend and I were learning more about each other's lives, building a relationship based on trust and respect. But it seemed that my parents weren't as happy with my choice as I was. At first, it was just casual questions like, "Are you sure she's the right person for you?" Or, "Does she share our family's values?" I thought these were just natural concerns from parents wanting the best for their child, so I let these questions slide without much thought. But over time, these comments became more frequent and pointed. My interactions with my parents, which had always been lighthearted and enjoyable, started to feel tense. It seemed that every time they brought up my relationship, there was an undertone of criticism. They'd mention how I might be distancing myself from the family, or how that kind of relationship could take me off track. I knew they were trying to protect my interests, but I started to feel stifled, as if every decision I made needed their implicit approval. One evening, during a family dinner, things took a turn for the worse. My mom commented that young people are easily influenced and that it's easy to get swept up in fleeting passions. My dad, who was usually more relaxed, suggested that maybe it was time to reevaluate if this relationship was the best for me. Their words didn't just irritate me, they left me feeling confused. After all, this was my relationship, and the decisions should be mine, right? But at the same time, they were my parents, and I couldn't help wondering if they saw something I was missing. I realized then that this wasn't going to be easily resolved. I was facing a dilemma. Should I confront them and demand my own space, or try to find a way to balance my family's expectations with my personal life? As time went on, it became harder to ignore the impact of my parents' opinions about my relationship. What had started as a mild irritation was now affecting my relationship and my own confidence. I found myself questioning my decisions more and more, wondering if staying in this relationship was the right thing to do. It was as if a shadow of doubt was always there, fed by my parents' comments. My girlfriend started noticing the change too. I avoided talking about my family, and whenever she suggested meeting them, I always made up an excuse. I didn't want her to feel hurt or sense the resistance my parents were showing. But this silence only created distance between us. And soon, she began to ask if something was wrong. How could I explain that? While I wanted to be with her, my family seemed to view our relationship as a mistake. The conflict between my personal life and my parents' expectations started affecting all aspects of my daily life. When I was with my girlfriend, I felt guilty, as if I were somehow betraying my parents' trust. And at the same time, when I was with my family, I felt like I was being constantly judged for not following the path they thought was right. It was like being caught between two worlds, unable to fully please either. Conversations with my parents grew more and more tense. Once, my mom said I was putting my future at risk for someone I barely knew. My dad hinted that I was being naive by ignoring their advice, saying that as parents, they knew what was best for me. That's when I realized they weren't going to back down. To them, this relationship was a threat, and I was in a position where I had to choose between honoring their wishes or following my own feelings. I knew that if I continued to let their opinions interfere, I'd lose control over my own decisions, but confronting them head-on could create an even bigger conflict. The struggle between respecting my parents and being true to myself was a heavy burden, something that was slowly consuming me. After weeks of carrying this weight, I came to the conclusion that I couldn't go on like this. I knew that if I wanted peace of mind and to be honest with myself, I'd have to face my parents and make it clear that decisions about my personal life were mine, and mine alone. It was a tough step, but I knew it was necessary. One weekend, after a lot of reflection, I decided to have a direct conversation with them. I called my parents to talk at home, in a calm environment without distractions. I wanted them to understand how much this situation was affecting me, but at the same time, I knew I needed to stay calm and be clear. Taking a deep breath, I started by saying that I understood their concerns and that I'd always valued the support and advice they'd given me throughout my life. They listened in silence as I explained how much this situation was hurting me. I told them that I loved my family, but that my relationship was my choice, something I needed to live out according to my own beliefs. I said that while I respected their opinion, I needed them to respect my decision to continue with the relationship. This was my life, and in the end, I would be the one dealing with the consequences, whether good or bad. My dad seemed surprised by the firmness in my words. My mom, on the other hand, was more hesitant. She said that everything she did was out of love and that she was trying to protect me from potential pain. But when she saw the toll their interference was taking, she seemed to start understanding how controlling she'd been. The conversation was long and full of tense moments, but in the end, they agreed, albeit reluctantly, to respect my decision. By the end of that talk, I felt a relief I hadn't felt in weeks. Confronting my parents hadn't been easy, but it was something I needed to do to reaffirm my independence. I knew this didn't mean they'd suddenly accept everything easily, but I also knew this was an important step for our family relationship to adjust and mature. And what do you think about parental control in their children's lives? How far should they be allowed to interfere? Leave your opinion in the comments. And if you enjoyed this story, subscribe to ReactStories and hit the notification bell for more thought-provoking tales. Share this video with someone facing a similar family dilemma, and I'll see you in the next story.